Hi, I'm Karen Simmons, and I'm going to talk about how we meet the rules, really, of using this listening process with each other. Because the how is really important. It's what enables us to do this in a really good way. So what we do is we agree to meet for a certain length of time. So that could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. It's, as you get better and more able to do it, then you can do it for longer. A bit like practicing anything, like a pro golfer, when you've been practicing your art, your sport for decades, you can do it all day long superbly well. So it's literally just practice. And the reason we have to meet and do this in a different way to normal conversation is that we've been really stopped with the human beings having the best of intentions around each other. We haven't really well understood this process of emotions, what emotions are for, how to listen to them, and how to use them to really increase your sense of well-being, closeness, connectedness, and to allow your intelligence to flow more easily and more freely. So these sticky emotions we get, the fear, anger, hurt, jealousy, or tiredness, or maybe not tiredness, or those kinds of things. When we get those, they're like little bits of dust in our brain. They're like little bits of dust, and they clog up the thinking process. Well, as when you're in a high emotional state or even a little bit, it's a bit more difficult to think. So if you can literally think of these emotions which have their reasons for being, it's like if you're feeling afraid, it's like, okay, maybe you need to beware of that open fire over there. And that's why you need to be afraid, and you need to think about the other people around it so they don't fall into that open fire. So these emotions definitely have their uses, but what they do, if you don't then clear them up afterwards, it's like clearing up after a meal, when you've eaten, you can't just eat your meal and then go out and play. You have to clear up, because otherwise your house gets in a real mess. And if you don't clear up for days and days and weeks and months and years on end, can you imagine what your house would be like? So it's like that. Your brain's a bit like that. These emotions clog up your thinking processes, your intelligence. Your intelligence uses thinking to flow, to grow, to go in that direction, to take that idea, go there, to think about this, to think about that. And these emotions, if you haven't cleared them up, useful as they have been at the time, if you don't clear them up, they will clog up. They will just sit there, little bits of dust and dirt in your brain, stopping you from doing that really intelligent thinking. And so that's why we, as adults and even as teenagers, actually, because we've been stopped at such a young age from doing this, that's why we have to reclaim this process, and we have to dig it up again. It's like something we've lost and buried. I know those tears are down there somewhere, but goodness, I don't cry normally. You might be saying, you might be somebody who's hardly ever cried for decades, but there quite probably are tears in there that haven't been cried. They need to be cried. They're the things that kind of clog up all those things. And when you do cry them, and the whole process of using this is so clever, it's so neat, it's so intelligent. The whole process of doing this work brings us closer together. It brings us closer together. It makes me quite emotional just saying that. It actually brings us closer together. And because what we do is we we agree to show these things about ourselves to somebody else, and we are trusting. You know, if I show you my fears, my tears, my embarrassment, if I show you those things, I'm trusting you with that. So we have to build this relationship with each other, and we can do that quite quickly. And this is the how. We can do that quite quickly if we set it up in advance, so we can actually say, so me and you, we can say, okay, let's meet and do some of this work, because we have to go and dig up these things. They're not freely available to us anymore. We have to really go and make a place to do the work, and eventually they will become freely available to us, but we have to find a place initially to do this. So me and you will set a place, a date, a time. So that's next Wednesday, 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll meet for an hour, and you can meet online. Obviously, you can meet in person, and you're meeting in a space. So it's me coming to a space, you coming to a space, we're meeting. And so in this space, in this new big space, it's a space whereby we agree, when we enter it, we agree to set these rules of confidentiality. I won't go and tell lots of other people what you've told me. In fact, I won't tell anyone. Probably for the rest of my life. That's how important confidentiality can be. What are the other things? Non-judgemental, being non-judgemental. So I agree not to judge you, because I know when you're trying to work something out, you have to say all sorts of things. All sorts of things have to be able to flow out. And it might not all make sense, and some of it might not be logical, but you have to be able to do it to get these. This is part of the process. And so I have to promise that I will trust you and I will not judge you. And please do the same for me. Don't judge me. Please believe that I am capable of working out things for myself just as you are. I might have a very good idea about what you could do. Like, oh, if only you would do this. Why don't you do this? But I don't know that for a start. I'm not you. And I really need to, it's a question of trusting each other's intelligence. So I need to trust that you have the intelligence to work out what you need to work out for your life, and vice versa. So that's why we do the non-judgmental. Also, what happens, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. You know, there are people in certain organisations and disciplines who've been practicing this for many decades now and longer. You know, this is the process that we were all born with, being able to cry, laugh, shake, yawn. This is the process we were all born with. So we have to reclaim this process a bit, and we have to agree that when we do these things, we're not going to suddenly get worried or think that each other is mad. I mean, that's why we don't do it, actually. You know, if I was to cry, if I was to cry in some setting with a group of people, if I was to cry for 5 or 10 minutes, it's quite possible that some of those people would think I was a bit crazy and, do you think perhaps she should go and see a doctor and get some help with this? Perhaps is she on medication? Does she need to be on medication? You know, it doesn't look good. You know, that's quite heavy, isn't it? You know, people thinking that about you. And that's why we don't show these things. So we agree we can. You know, if we meet for 10 minutes and you have 5 minutes and I have 5 minutes, when you have your time to show yourself and to think, If you need to cry for 4 of those 5 minutes, I agree that that's absolutely fine. That's what you need to do. And I'm not going to worry about you. You know, you're doing this thing that we're talking about now, which is like hoovering out your brain, you know. Get the hoover out. Oh, the vacuum cleaner, I should say, shouldn't I? Get the vacuum cleaner out, vacuum out all that sticky stuff. And the tears washes that sticky stuff out, and it washes, and you can vacuum it up and get it out, and then you've got this nice clean brain, which is go, woo, now I'm clean and I haven't got this dust clogging, this stuff clogging me up. I can go, you know, you can go that much faster and clearer. You can literally think more clearly. Your intelligence isn't being caught up like that anymore. So that's why we make this place to meet, and then we go, you know, we end it. So if we've had 10 minutes of being in this place, at the end we say, okay, we'll meet again and do this, you know, in 2 days' time, in a week's time, and then we go back to our normal lives where we're not allowed to do these things. And I really hope that more and more this process will be recognized for what it is, which is a normal, healthy, really useful process, really useful, has a really important function. We evolved as human beings to have it. We're the only species that has this process to this extent, and it's for a very good reason. So go and set yourself up with a space with somebody to exchange this time and enjoy the connection. Enjoy the connection.